2 years ago, I purchased this 35mm lens from Sirui on their Kickstarter because they had just released it for the RF lens mount, and I wanted to experiment with anamorphic footage, but not have to break the bank. And at the time, it was the most affordable anamorphic lens for crop sensor cameras, Super 35 cameras like the red Komodo. And even today, here in 2024, this 35mm is the most affordable anamorphic lens out there on the market today, period. And it gives the most value, especially due to its focal length. So today I want to go over my experience using this lens over the past few years on the red Komodo, which I've used it mostly on, and also the Sony FX30. This was the first lens that I have bought multiple copies of just because I wanted to get this in the E-mount version so I could use it on the FX30 as well. I originally bought this 35mm because I was always looking to get into anamorphic, especially with the red Komodo and the anamorphic modes it offers, but I wanted to have more time with the lens. I didn't want to just rent a lens and use it on a project and just have that project as my learning period. So the price of this, even a few years ago, just made it make a lot of sense. But today, you can get this lens brand new, even cheaper than I bought it for, almost half the price. And you can get it used on Amazon resale for even cheaper. So when I first got the 35mm, I took it on a few test shoots here around Fort Lauderdale, and I really liked the footage I was getting from it. And I also noticed the flares weren't actually that bad unless I had direct light sources pointing into the camera, and I really did like the blue flare. So the first gig I brought it on was I shot a wedding around 65–70% on the 35mm and the red Komodo on a DJI RS2 with a follow focus. And I really loved the footage. It came out really great. The client loved it. The client even mentioned this. It made their wedding feel more like a film and not just like any other old wedding video. On the Icarus maneuver, we wanted to do the same thing, shoot with the 35mm on a gimbal, but we ended up actually using this on a Steadicam. So all the footage you see is on a Steadicam with the red Komodo. This lens and the Komodo were so light on the Steadicam that we actually had to add weights to it. So it's one of the things that I really love about this lens that just didn't work out for that shoot, but how small it is, especially compared to all the anamorphic lenses we see today. This is super tight and compact, and although they say it's f1.8, I don't have a way to measure it, so couldn't tell you, but small and compact makes a huge difference for gimbal work. In hindsight, I probably should have done a lot of those moves on gimbal and on the Steadicam and kind of switched it so we can get some different looks, but that's for another discussion. We really ended up liking the footage that we got on the 35mm, and for that shoot specifically, I ended up picking up the 75mm as well to use on the B cam just to get a few up-close shots. In this set, there's a 24mm f2.8, the 35mm f1.8, the 50mm f1.8, and the 75mm f1.8, if you're interested in other lenses in this set. I've really stuck with the 35mm because it's not too wide, it's not too telephoto on Super 35. It really gives me what I need, and although the close focus isn't that crazy, none of the footage you've seen so far is using a diopter. That being said, when I shot product shots of some of the cameras, gear, accessories that I wanted with the 35mm, I do use a diopter to solve for this focus throw issue, because the minimum focus throw is about 0.85 meters, around 3 feet. So it's not very close, but in some of these shots with Claire, I tried to get as close to her as I could just to maximize the out of focus bokeh in the background. So when I shot some of the product shots, I needed the diopter to be able to get up and close to some of these small cameras like the FX30, and the diopters work really well, and it's a really easy hack to get around the close focus issues. The front filter of this lens is 67mm, so just note that when I bought this, I didn't have any 67mm filters, so I ended up buying a Tiffin VND and some mist filters. The E-mount version of the lens that I purchased, it actually is a micro four thirds mount lens, and Sirui gives you a plate that you can put on the back of the lens and convert it to E-mount. Now let's talk about flaring. The flaring is something that was spoken a lot about on many videos for years about this lens. And as you saw from the Icarus maneuver footage, we really didn't have any flaring in there. We did shoot it really low light, and there was also no direct light sources pointed at the lens. Yeah, they flare really easily when direct light sources are pointed at them, but with shooting anamorphic, especially if you're on set, everything has to be intentional. Every move needs to be intentional. The lighting obviously has to be intentional. So if you're trying to get flares or you're trying to reduce the flares, it's on you as the cinematographer to figure out how to just eliminate them or introduce them more. And you can get really great looking flares off of this lens. Like if you take a look at this shot of Nina, the ovular bokeh is in the background, but it's not crazy ovular. You can absolutely tell that it's an oval, but it's not crazy stretched, especially compared to the 75mm. But when I use diopters and I have some of this product footage, the ovular bokeh on the 35mm is a lot more pronounced. So it really just depends on how you're filming with this, but just know that the bokeh isn't going to be crazy ovular like a 1.5x stretch lens or 1.6, 1.8, 2x stretch. Sirui even now makes some full frame glass, and they make super light versions of them that are made out of carbon fiber, although they're f2.9. They're really good for gimbal work, but they are considerably more expensive than these. So if you're not shooting on full frame, really, these from Sirui are kind of the best bang for your buck you're going to get if you're shooting on crop sensor. If you're itching to get into anamorphic, you can, and for a budget. And it may make more sense, instead of renting a really expensive anamorphic lens to only use for a few days, to spend that same money and just pick up one that you can use for as long as you want. So if you have any questions on the Sirui 35mm, even the 75mm, which I may do a video on down the line, let me know in the comments below. And if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos on the channel. And until next time, my name's Geoff Fagien. Thank you for joining me as always, and I will catch you in the next video.